Are you looking for the best home projectors? In this video we will look at some of the 6 best projectors on the market. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description, so make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Starting at number 1. XGIMI Horizon 20 Max. If you want the best home projector we've tested, get the XGIMI Horizon 20 Max. It's a 4K projector that uses pixel shifting on a single-chip DLP, so movies, TV, and sports look much sharper than on 1080p models while staying more affordable than native 4K units. The RGB laser light source is very bright, which helps it punch through a bit of ambient light in a living room, and in a fully dark room, its strong contrast lets dark scenes keep depth instead of turning to murky gray. Its wide color gamut and very good out-of-the-box accuracy make everything from animated films to HDR dramas look rich and saturated without a lot of tweaking. HDR support is excellent for home use. You get Dolby Vision, HDR10+, HDR10, and HLG, so it plays nicely with modern streaming services and consoles. It also has the kind of placement flexibility you want in a main home projector, with motorized zoom, lens shift, autofocus, auto keystone, and a swivel stand so you can drop it on a table, shelf, or ceiling mount and dial it in quickly. It's also a solid choice if you game. It accepts 4K at 60 Hz plus 1080p at 120 Hz and 1080p at 240 Hz, with low enough input lag in game mode for both fast and cinematic titles, and it supports VRR to help reduce tearing. There can be some visible artifacting with unstable frame rates, so VRR works best when your FPS is capped or relatively steady, but overall, it's very responsive. Add in a full smart platform and eARC for a soundbar or AVR, and this XGIMI Horizon 20 Max is the most versatile home projector you can buy right now. At number 2. Hisense PX3-PRO. If you want a projector that really replaces a living room TV and lives right up against the wall, the Hisense PX3-PRO is the best ultra-short throw (UST) home projector we've tested. It's a 4K pixel shifting DLP with a trichroma triple laser light source, so 4K movies, sports, and streaming apps look sharp and very colorful. Because it sits only a few inches from the wall, you can drop it on a low media console and still fill a 90 to 150 inch screen without a ceiling mount or long cable runs. It's also bright enough to cope with a few lamps or daytime viewing in a typical living room, especially if you pair it with a proper UST ALR screen, and in a darker room, its strong contrast helps preserve shadow detail so dark scenes don't immediately wash out to gray. For home use, it behaves a lot like a high-end smart TV. Google TV is built in, with Dolby Vision and HDR10+ support in all the major apps, plus Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, Chromecast, and AirPlay 2, so you don't need an external box. The integrated 50W speaker system is good enough to get started, and a dedicated HDMI eARC port makes it easy to hand audio off to a soundbar or AVR later. It also accepts 4K at 60 Hz and up to 1080p at 240 Hz, so consoles and PCs are well supported. Input lag isn't as low as a dedicated gaming projector like the Hisense C2 Ultra, but it's perfectly fine for story games and casual play. If you want a big, bright, TV-like image from right up against the wall, the Hisense PX3-PRO is the one to get. At number 3. Hisense C2 Ultra. If you want the best gaming home projector, get the Hisense C2 Ultra. It's a short-throw 4K, pixel-shifted, triple laser model that looks sharp on a big screen, and it stays genuinely responsive in game mode. Input lag is low enough at 4K at 60 Hz for console play to feel snappy, and it also supports 1080p at 120 Hz and 1080p at 240 Hz for smoother PC gaming. It'll accept 1440p and 4K signals at 120 Hz, but it downscales them to 1080p, so 4K 60 and high refresh 1080p are the modes to target. It's also bright enough for a living room with a couple of lights on, and its extremely wide color gamut helps games look rich and saturated, even if very dark scenes can still look a bit gray. It's also the best short-throw home projector, which is a big deal for many rooms. You can place it much closer to the screen than a traditional long-throw model, so it works well on a low table in front of the sofa or in smaller spaces where you simply cannot push the projector far back. Unlike ultra-short-throw projectors like the Hisense PX3-PRO, it's usually less picky about screen type, so a basic white or gray screen, or even a decent wall, can still look good. It's also easy to live with thanks to Vita with official Netflix, plus Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus support, Wi-Fi and Ethernet, and an integrated JBL speaker system. HDMI eARC makes it simple to add a soundbar or AVR, and the rotating gimbal stand with autofocus and auto keystone speeds up setup. At number 4. XGIMI Horizon S Max. If you want a serious home projector without paying flagship prices, the XGIMI Horizon S Max is the best value option. It's a 4K projector that uses pixel shifting, and its laser-based light engine has plenty of brightness for a dim living room while really coming into its own in a darker room. Contrast is very good, so night scenes keep a sense of depth, and its wide color gamut gives animated content and HDR dramas a lot of pop. Out of the box, it's already quite accurate, so most people won't feel the need to calibrate. It's also very bright when projected on a 100-inch screen, so you don't need to turn off every light in the room for a good experience. HDR support is a big part of its appeal at this price. It handles Dolby Vision as well as standard HDR10, so you get more nuanced tone mapping from compatible apps and discs than on many mid-range projectors. You also get a full built-in smart platform with the major streaming services, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, so you don't need a separate box for everyday use. For home gaming, it's perfectly fine if you mostly play 60 frames per second console titles. It accepts 4K at 60 Hz and feels responsive enough for story games and casual multiplayer, even if it doesn't offer the 120 Hz per 240 Hz modes you get on dedicated gaming models like the Hisense C2 Ultra. Add an eARC for a soundbar or AVR and a relatively compact chassis that's easy to place on a shelf or table, and this XGIMI Horizon S Max is the sweet spot if you want a genuinely cinematic 4K experience at a more approachable price. At number 5. Epson Home Cinema 1080. If you're looking for a budget home projector and expect to watch a lot with the lights on, the Epson Home Cinema 1080 is the one to get. It's a 1080p 3 LCD projector that's impressively bright for the price. In fact, within this list, only the XGIMI Horizon 20 Max and Hisense C2 Ultra are brighter, and both are far more expensive. That makes the Epson a great fit for casual TV, sports, and family use in living rooms or multi-purpose spaces with windows or lamps. The trade-off is image quality in darker rooms. Contrast is disappointing, and its color gamut is relatively narrow, so blacks look gray, and it doesn't deliver the rich HDR-style punch you get from higher-end models. In fact, it doesn't even support HDR, so this is an SDR-only projector. If you mostly watch in brighter conditions, though, those weaknesses are much less noticeable, and the sheer light output is what matters most. It also has a few handy features for home use. There's integrated Wi-Fi with Miracast support, so you can cast from compatible phones or laptops, and a USB-B port for projecting supported content directly from a computer. It doesn't have a built-in SmartOS, so you'll still want a streaming dongle for Netflix or Prime Video, but there are two HDMI inputs that handle 1080p at 60 Hz, plus USB-A for power. Audio is basic, with a small 2W mono speaker and no ARC, so using the 3.5mm audio out or a receiver is recommended if you care about sound. Overall, if you want the brightest, most versatile budget projector for a typical living room, the Epson Home Cinema 1080 won't break your wallet. At number 6. NexiGo PJ40 Gen 3. If the budget option above is still too pricey, check out the NexiGo PJ40 Gen 3, the best cheap home projector we've tested. It's a 1080p model that isn't nearly as bright as the Epson Home Cinema 1080, so it struggles in well-lit spaces, but its native contrast is surprisingly strong for the price, much better than the Epson. In a dark room that pays off. Movies and shows look much more cinematic than you'd expect from something this cheap, as long as you keep the lights down and don't mind that colors look a bit muted due to its limited brightness and narrow color gamut. The out-of-the-box color accuracy is pretty bad. If you care about accuracy, you'll have to get this unit calibrated or buy something pricier. Still, feature-wise, it's loaded for a bargain unit. You get Bluetooth 5.1 Wi-Fi, and casting via Miracast or Apple AirPlay, plus 2 HDMI ports, one with ARC for a soundbar, a USB input, a 20W built-in speaker system, a game mode, and HDR10 support. Of course, the projector isn't quite bright enough to make HDR sing, but it's available if you want to use it. The Android TV interface is very bare bones and doesn't really replace a proper streaming OS, so most people will still want to plug in a Chromecast or Fire TV stick. Overall, the NexiGo PJ40 Gen 3 isn't the brightest or most colorful option, but if you can darken your room and want the biggest possible image for the least amount of money, it's a solid, cheap home projector.